Yo, what is up everyone? Back here with another YouTube video. Today we are going to be going over the top 5 fire types. Yeah, so kind of wanted to just break these down. Similar to the previous video that we had, what's going to happen is I'm going to be talking about the different sets that these mons can utilize, kind of what they do, and then what we're going to do from there is kind of break down like where I think they place in terms of how they relate to the other items and sets, right? Some mons obviously are going to have less sets than others. Um, and some may just have like a bunch of unique sets that I just think are different, you know. So it's like, yeah, it's just like there's a lot of variety among some of the mons, and then there's a lot of like linear kind of sets among the others. So yeah, so we're gonna go first to number 5. So number 5 is going to be Arcanine. So Arcanine did have an appearance at the Players Cup Invitational. It did okay. It like was on Ryota's team. I think it did work for like the team for what it's worth. I think where it what's it called? Where it like really struggles is like finding a place on most other teams, right? So Arcanine itself offers like Intimidate, it offers Will-O-Wisp, it offers like Flare Blitz, ton of good coverage. By the way, if you guys are interested in seeing the EVs for this team and for the rest of the, or not for the teams, but for the mons, make sure to check out the Patreon where you guys can get access to all of this exclusive stuff, like a bunch of EV spreads. It's hella value. You get a lot out of it. Considering we daily upload as well, like everything from these videos that has an EV spread is going to be uploaded there, so it's just very worth it. As well, just thank you guys for all the support. If you guys are interested in improving in the game beyond just, you know, obviously what's it called, watching videos, I do offer private coaching as well, so make sure to check that out. But back to my thoughts. Arcanine is actually a decent intimidator. It also has the benefit of not being weak to Zacian in terms of like the close combat hits it neutrally, and that's about it, right? So it's a little bit better versus Zacian. The issue that Arcanine has is it's still pretty weak versus Urshifu, and it doesn't have access to a lot of stuff that Cineroar has access to. So Fake Out is a big one. Pretty much like besides its typing, that's the only like leg up it has on Incineroar. Everything else Incineroar does better as Parting Shot. Arcanine has no pivoting moves. It has access to Snarl, but like you can do that with Incineroar, you know, so it's not anything crazy. I think Arcanine does have a bit more coverage moves and a better potential to be offensive, which is nice. So that's the main benefit there. So we're going to be going through the individual Arcanine sets that I think are actually legitimate, which unfortunately I really only think is one, which is Citrus Berry, Flare Blitz, Will-O-Wisp, Snarl, and Protect. Pretty much like this just lets you take the Urshifu Surging Strikes if you EV it properly. Or you can just EV it so that it's like tanky enough to like take certain hits and then you're able to like spread wisps. It's like kind of a trade-off, right? Majority of the time this is probably the best Arcanine set you can really utilize just because it kind of fits the most teams well. It is fast Will-O-Wisp, which is nice because it can weaken a lot of different mons, and obviously Snarl allows it to sit in front of Xerneas and continually annoy it, right? Which is really nice. So that would be the main thing there. Arcanine placing it at number 5. I'd say for fire types, actually, there's not as much competition. So, for like from the top ones, right? So, kind of makes sense. Honorable mention, Rotom Heat might actually have a potential niche, but like I didn't feel comfortable putting it over Arcanine. Rotom Heat has like a really good typing for beating Zacian, but its HP is really low, and there are things in the format that can counter it, right? But it is, assuming you have it with Gastrodon, right? Like, it would theoretically be good into Rillaboom, Incin, Urshifu, as long as you have something to remove Incin, obviously. And then it would theoretically also be good in Zacian. It would be theoretically good into, like, a lot of different teams. But I can't really find, like, a use for it beyond that, so I'm going to say it's honorable mention. So number 4, basically this, like the first, 4 and 5 are really easy. I think Torko easily places here. Torko's ability to set weather is really useful, but in a format like Groudon, if you want Sun, you're typically going to be opting for using Groudon. There are some teams that utilize Torko just to have manual Sun next to Venusaur. Majority of the time, I'd say that you're probably better off using Groudon. But it does have a niche as a Sunsetter. It also does counter Zacian, right? So it does have some use. I've used it before as well. It's like, okay. For the 2 sets that are pretty much relevant for it, it's either the Charcoal, Eruption, Heat Wave, and Earth Power set, which allows it to put on a bit of offense and Trick Room. Typically paired best with stuff like Calyrex Ice. Just Trick Room teams in general is where you see it the most. And then you have the more supportive Citrus Berry, Burning Jealousy, Body Press, and Yawn set. Personally, I think this set has fallen off a little bit. I don't actually think it's that great anymore. I think the real good set is actually Charcoal. So I'm not even gonna like kind of make suspense there, like straight up. Like I just think the Charcoal set's better, especially too because in this format, you're a little bit rewarded if your options are a bit more aggressive than your opponents because you can put on a lot more pressure on them, right? So it's just like a really nice option there. The nice thing here too is that because of the what's it called, at least for the bulky set, is that because of the Citrus Berry, you can really sit around for a long time and disrupt them with like Burning Jealousies, with going for, you know, Body Press and Yawns, like spreading status. But because there's no Dynamax, Burning Jealousy has less targets to hit, so I'd say it's actually a worse move overall. So we're gonna put this Torkoal in number 2, and we're gonna go put this what's it called, Torkoal number 1. But yeah, so that's number 4. Now this is where we get to like the really good fire types. So obviously, the next up would be, it was kind of tough to decide. Like, it's like half and half, but I feel like Entei is like a lot more deserving to be in the 3rd spot. It's really good, but I don't think it's better than the other 2 fire types that we've been seeing a lot. So honestly, Entei really fills out as one of the almost the premier what's it called, inner Focusmon of the format. It also is really good at dealing with both Xerneas and Zacian, which is why I think it's so good. Like, it has so many options for both. So, there are 3 sets on Entei that I've seen that I can kind of bring you guys through. The first set that I've seen, and I've used this Entei before, is actually the Assault Vest set. So, the benefit of the Assault Vest set is that you actually get basically a lot of flexibility where you can go for whatever move you want. You can consistently swap. I'd say this is best with the Cherumdon teams unless you like specifically need a better Calyrex matchup and like it has to rely on you outspeeding them. Assault Vest Entei with Cherum is actually like crazy. Like it takes like no damage and it also deals a bunch of damage. Like to put into context, in one of my World Cup matches, I think I went for Helping Hand with Cherum and it was in Sun obviously next to Entei. And there was a +2 Milotic in front of me, and it dropped at like 60% from Sacred Fire. Like it was crazy. Like the damage output you get and the bulk you get from it is like actually insane. So it's kind of nice to capitalize off of it with AV. The next set that's like really common is Choice Scarf. So typically these Choice Scarf like Mons will run, or Choice Scarf Entei will typically run Flare Blitz. Flare Blitz lets you lock up certain KOs on stuff like Calyrex a bit better. So there are a couple options that they usually go for. They typically don't run... Oh, I didn't mean to do that. They typically don't run Extreme Speed on the Choice Scarf set. Sometimes they do, but like it's very unlikely. You typically see the Scarf set more often, I think, on Calyrex teams. And for the Choice Scarf, basically it's like you can snipe Zacian. Stone Edge obviously lets you hit stuff like Cineroar if you need to. Crunch lets you one-shot Cali if you have, what's it called? You know, obviously the max speed, like... No, I don't think it's Jolly. I think you need to be like 151 to outspeed it or something, which it actually does, being Adamant. So you would pretty much just go for like a Scarf Crunch and just remove it onto Calyrex. And then you have Sacred Fire as like your safer burn option if you need it. Not safer necessarily, but it doesn't chip you, basically. So it's better in terms of like hitting things that you don't want to like chip yourself to like hit. Also to potentially fishing for burns. And then the final Entei set we have. So this one kind of depends on the team. What I've seen typically is like Safety Goggles. And it'll run like Sacred Fire, Snarl, and Roar. So this is basically just to phase out stuff like Xerneas. And then also you have like the option of Snarl for a little bit more bulk. And then you have Roar, obviously. Like besides Xerneas, you can just phase things out. You can stop Trick Room, stuff like that. I'd say this is probably the worst set out of the bunch. I honestly think these 2 are a bit better. But Safety Goggles is alright. It's like, it depends on the team. So we are going to be rating these. I actually wrote them in pretty much order of what I think they are. So we're going to do 3, 2, 1. So I think Safety Goggles is the worst. It doesn't highlight, like, Entei has not great bulk if you don't EV it properly. And, like, if you look at the stats, like, it's okay, but it's still taking a bunch of damage. I mean, I guess you can fully invest in the bulk, but even then, like, it's kind of nice to capitalize off of the offense Entei, like, gives because of inner focus. So you're kind of, like, throwing, I think, by, like, going for a bulkier set unless your team specifically needs it. Scarf is good. I think the main issue it comes into is like getting locked into move. Like Assault Vest I think is a lot more consistent because you can kind of cycle between your moves, you can use different things, and it kind of helps you do a bit more as a whole. Oh my god, my hair is like poofy. Gotta like fix that real quick. There we go. Alright. I think I fixed it. I don't know. Maybe I didn't fix it. Yeah, my hair is kind wild. Anyways, so Scarf Entei does put on a lot of offense. I think it's really nice in terms of what it does. It does also pair really nicely with Inner Focus, so I think that that's why I would probably rate it over Safety Goggles. And like I said, Entei has like okay bulk, but like what really brings it out is AV plus Cherim. Like I think like that's like a really cool set. And even if you're not running Cherim, like I just think AV is like a really good item. It's just super nice to be able to like take hits and actually just deal damage back, and like you can really make this thing like fat. Like it can take hits really really well, and this actually helps you a little bit because then you won't be as pressured by certain mons. So it's just like a really nice option. But yeah, that's the main thing there. So now we can go into number 2, which I actually think is going to be Volcarona. I'm not even going to try and suspend. You guys know what's going to be number 1, but yeah. But yeah, so over here, Volcarona is actually a very, very solid option, right? It does a bunch of things, and its typing is actually really, really good for the format, specifically because there's so much Xerneas and there's so much Zacian. Obviously, in stuff like Kyogre, like, you just use something different, so it's not that big of a deal or a detriment. And then, even then, like, Volcarona also, too, I think literally because Zacian is the most popular mon is why Volcarona is so good. It's just incredibly good. Like, the ability to set up Quiver Dance or support a Xerneas is just super nice. So, it really fits in well with this format, I think. And it just really has solidified itself as one of, like, the premier, like, redirection and setup options, right? So, if we go over here and we look at Volcarona, the Citrus Berry, Fiery Dance, Quiver Dance, Giga Drain Protect set, I think is really good. It typically pairs well on stuff like, even on Zacian teams, to beat other Zacian teams, Volcarona works, which I think is like super cool. So like it just shows you how like good the mon is. Like it's even teched on the team of the mon that's supposed to like be beating said mon. Yeah, it's just like it's ridiculous. Like and then you have the redirection Volcarona, so you have the option of going for Citrus again. And then you have the option of going for Fiery Dance. You can also go for Overheat or Heat Wave. It typically depends on the person's preference. Rage Powder, Struggle Bug. And then they either run Protect or they run Whirlwind. Whirlwind lets you phase out Xerneas, which is kind of neat. Protect lets you be a bit safer. I'll just put Protect for this example. Sometimes what they'll even do is they'll run Quiver Dance. So you have both a setup and a redirection Volcarona, right? Personally, for me, I think the Quiver Dance set is a bit better right now, just because I think that Amoonguss is fine as a redirector in the majority of cases. On Xerneas teams, I'd probably be inclined to disagree a little bit, just like with myself there, because then you have, what's it called, the like necessary kind of means to have to redirect, because you want to protect your Xerneas from Zacian, and like Amoonguss isn't resisting it, but Volcarona is threatening a burn on it, so... Also, too, with these Volcaronas, they're typically EV'd so that they can live, like, 3 Surging Strikes from Urshifu, which gives you the max burn chance to really, like, ruin it. So, it's just, like, a super nice option there. But, yeah. I'd say between these two sets, I personally would rate the Redirection set second and the Quiver Dance set first. The Quiver Dance set is basically a lot more offensive, and it can put, like, a lot more pressure on. Also, it works on more teams. And then obviously for the redirection set, it's a little bit different. This one specifically for Xerneas team. Sometimes you'll want it for like maybe a Trick Room team, but realistically, majority of the time you're going to want it on a Xern team. So yeah, I think the Quiver Dance like Giga Drain set's really nice too, because it lets you hit Ursh and you can heal your health back, and like that's like really crucial, I think, with Volcarona. So yeah, that's gonna be number 2. So surprise, guys, number 1 is actually gonna be Cineroar. I mean, I feel like it was pretty obvious, right? I'd say there are, like, pretty much 3 viable Incineroar sets, and I'm going to be taking you guys through all of them. So, pretty much the main sets that you'd want for Incineroar are going to be the Figgy Berry set, right? Which has Flare Blitz, Parting Shot, Fake Out, and then a filler move, depending on what you need. Typically, you're going to see Taunt or Throat Chop on these. We'll put Throat Chop for this example, right? This instant is typically EV'd, so it can live Urshifu Surging Strikes, which is actually really helpful in this format because it's literally everywhere. And being able to take that hit is like super, super nice. Having a little bit of defensive investment is really good too, because you could even take stuff from Zacian. It's just a really nice option. Then for the second Incineroar set I want to talk about the Safety Goggles Roar set. This is typically better on Xerneas teams where you need like a check into things that Xerneas doesn't like. So I'd say it's a pretty good option. Sorry, I had to like clean my desk for a second. That was bothering me. But yeah, I'd say like Roar is like really good for phasing out things. It's really nice specifically into the Xerneas mirror. This is like much better on Xerneas teams, I think, than any other kind of team. Also to Amoonguss and was it Amoonguss Incineroar mirrors. Roar is actually really nice because you can like spore and then phase out your own Amoonguss, so it's just like really cool. Using Roar to like phase yourself out in general is just a cool play. And then finally, the final set I wanted to talk about was actually the Assault Vest set. This one you don't see as much, but it does pop up once in a while. Assault Vest lets you invest a lot into physical defense, which is really nice, and then you still have like really good special calcs, so it's just a really nice like option overall. Pretty much like it'll just let you take like whatever hit. You can kind of sit there, and it just really pays off majority of the time. Like you can even go adamant sometimes, like put on a bit more offense. Like there's just a lot you can do. Nice thing is too with this set is that you actually are just able to take stuff like you get two shot by like some ridiculous things, and you don't get picked off by like stray meteor beams. So it's just like a really nice option there. But yeah, so pretty much if I had to rate these teams individually, right? So I think the main thing that I would say is for Assault Vest and Cineroar, I think it's like a solid option. I think it's the worst out of the bunch purely because as the most niche use, Roar is at least a little more applicable on any team because it lets you phase things out, and even if you're running safety goggles in general, helps with your Amoonguss matchup. It doesn't necessarily have to have Roar in the slot. I'd say Assault Vest is a little bit more like dependent on your team. 2 for safety goggles and Cineroar, I think it's probably the most like okay Ensign, and then I'm gonna put Berry Ensign actually at number 1. I think Berry's actually a really good item for Ensign. You can cycle out Throat Chop for taunt as well. Stop Amoonguss, so it's just really nice. The nice thing here too is that you can also run Citrus Berry on this and kind of do the same thing with Urshifu, so it's like kind of the same idea if you invest enough defense. So yeah, these are pretty much the top 5 fire types. I mean, I feel like this list was a little more straightforward. Fire typing is a little bit more like kind of closed off. I didn't include restricteds in this, by the way, because I feel like that's a little too easy, you know. Yeah, like I'll consider it in the future, but we're specifically just talking about we're specifically just talking about like the support mons in this format, right? I think if we bring in restricteds, then it can kind of just eat up the list. Like for example, like let's say we did a ghost list, right? It would just be Lunala and Calyrex and then like 3 other fillers, but you know, but we'll have to figure it out. But I'd say for now the lists are not going to include the restricteds, but might change depending on, you know, obviously the types and stuff. Even then, I don't even think there's any good like restricted I don't think there's any good restricted fire types, are there? Unless I'm like forgetting any. Yeah, there's like literally none. I mean Groudon is like I want to be a fire type restricted. Yeah, Ho sucks. I would never put it on the list anyways. But yeah. So yeah, that's the list, guys. If you guys haven't already, make sure to like, subscribe, comment. It always helps with the algorithm, everything. Also, too, let me know what type you guys would like to see next and what kind of videos you guys would like to see next. Also, too, make sure to check out the Patreon where you guys can get access to all the EV spreads for all of these individual sets that I listed here. And then also make sure to sign up for coaching if you want to improve and work on your skills individually. Once again, guys, thank you again for all support. I always appreciate it, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.